Hello. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Own the Day. I'm going to I should introduce myself first. I'm Whitney Miller. I am Aubrey's fiance, and I'm going to be introducing him in just a hot moment, but I wanted to give a little bit of background on how this book came into life and into fruition, because it really is a journey for him. And what I noticed when I was reading this book, and by this moment, you've probably had it for a couple of days, and so I don't know if some of you guys have finished it or have listened to the audiobook, but he poured everything into this book. It's basically, if you've ever wanted to sit down with Aubrey one-on-one and had to have a cup of coffee or pick his brain, this is that book. You get to sit down with this book, and you're basically picking the brain of Aubrey Marcus. And I remember when it's funny, like looking back on this 2-year process of writing this book, he was at home in front of his computer constantly, and it never ended. I never even thought it was going to be able to come to life. It was just like this constant thing that was happening. And he had to keep the motivation, and the only way he kept that motivation was because he wanted people to fully live their life as optimally as possible. That's something that's been driving him his entire life, and particularly with this book. He truly put everything there is into it, and I hope you guys fully enjoy it. So with all of that said, not that he needs much of an introduction, the author of Own the Day, Own Your Life, my love, Aubrey Marcus.
What's up? Thank you, love, for that introduction. And when she's talking about motivation, I've been really thinking a lot about that as well. And, I think when you're young, the ego is a super strong motivator. You want to make a name for yourself. If you're a fighter, you get your name tattooed on your body so everybody knows that they can see it, and you want to be proud of what you're going to accomplish for you. But eventually that kind of motivation starts to run out, and eventually you have to remove the self from the equation and start thinking about the impact that you're going to have for other people, because it just doesn't last. That type of motivation doesn't take you all the way. So the motivation for me is times like this and the comments I'm getting from the books. And then, of course, my loves and my tribe and my family and the people who I can help. And that's what actually keeps me going through the hard times. And that's what I think when you guys are reading this book and thinking about why you should change, you can worry about what you're going to look like when you take your shirt off and how your abs are going to look in the mirror. That's cool. And then you can worry about being jacked, or you can worry about what you're going to accomplish at work, or you can worry about what a stud you're going to be in the bedroom, or you can worry about all these different things that put laurels on your own crown and put stars on your own shoulder. And that's part of it. That's part of life. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying that that's part of it. But what's really going to be the powerful motivation is when you show up as a different person. You show up as a better version of yourself. And those other people around you go, oh, what the fuck? Something's a little different. You're like, something else is possible. And then they start to see that. And then they start to wake up. And then maybe they start practicing some things. They start doing some things. And then other people around them. I remember I had this vision when I was deep into medicine. Pretty sure it was Wachuma. Definitely it was down in Peru. And I had this vision where everybody was moving around like nutcrackers that had a wind-up in it. Everybody's moving around. And then I was moving around too. And then all of a sudden, I stopped moving around. And I was like, whoa. What was I doing? Why was I moving around? Oh, it was all my fears and my ego and everything that was driving me that I was unconscious of, these deep core wounds that I was unaware of, these motivations that were driven by pain and trauma and stuff. Oh, these things that I was unconscious of. Oh, that's why I was moving. Okay, let me just get still for a second. And then I saw these other people, and I just put my hand on another person and looked in their eyes, and they woke up from it, and they were like, whoa, what was I doing? I was like, I don't know, I was doing the same shit. You know, and then that person put their hand on another person, and then that person put their hand on another person, and on another person. And then all of a sudden, everybody just got still. And then everybody started looking around at each other, and it was like, whoa, now what do we want to do? What can we do now? Now that we're all got our own shit and our own fucking automation to stop, what can we do together? And that was a powerful, powerful thing. And that was at the tail end of a communication that I had. And again, I didn't plan on talking about psychedelics, but you guys are probably the right crowd to do that with. But that was an end. You know, I remember, I'll tell the full fucking story. So we were driving back on a boat, and this was a Wachuma experience with Don Howard and Spirit Quest Sanctuary. And I remember we drove past some oil refineries or some kind of refineries where they were burning something that smelled horrible. And I'm deep, deep, deep in the medicine. And I was just communing with Mother Earth at the most beautiful spot, swimming in like a cenote in the jungle with mud on the side, and this literally tribal princess watching us with an angelic smile from the treetops, and this amazing experience in the heart of the jungle, you know, communing with our mother, the force that sustains our life, Earth. We're literally comprised of little bits of Earth, and I was right there in the heart of it. And then I'm on this boat, and I smell this smell, and it's just the burning of the earth, like the burning of the blood of the mother. And it was like plastics, and I don't even know what it was, and it was overwhelming and nauseous. And I started communicating. I was like, Mama, like, what can I do? And just tears streaming down. I thought, what can I do? What can I do? And she said a very clear message. She's like, son, worry about the people, and I'll take care of the rest. And I was like, okay, Mama, like, I got you. Like, I'll start worrying about the people, and I'll let whatever else, you know, whatever other processes need to take place happen, but I'll take care of the people. And that was the precedent to that other vision that I had later that night in front of the Masada, where I was just putting my hand out. And so circling all the way back around to this book is a big piece of that. Because we're born into this life, and we don't have a fucking instruction manual on how to use this thing. Like, we look at, where's the glove compartment where we can go research like how to use shit? Certainly not taught to us in school, and it's certainly confusing as fuck when you start searching the internet. So where do you go? What do you do? I mean, we're not even taught the simple things about, okay, we're all gonna breathe, but what happens if you breathe consciously? What happens if you take control of your breath? Well, then your whole body starts to change. The pH of your body starts to change. A Japanese study shows that 6 deep breaths, 6 alone, will lower your blood pressure and change your state. Everybody says, oh yeah, take a deep breath. Well, don't do that, it doesn't matter. Take 6 though, and you got something. That's like some basic shit. That's like some kindergarten shit. That's like after the Pledge of Allegiance type of shit. That's like, hey kids, feeling a little hyper? Feeling like things are tough? Let's try the 6 deep breath method. You ready? And then all of a sudden you have like a little bit of a guideline, a little bit of an idea of what you can do with this human body. Or how about, hey everybody, when you sleep, because your body is moist and the air is dry, every time you breathe out, you're gonna lose moisture, and your body's 90% moisture. So when you wake up, you're gonna have lost a pound of water overnight just by breathing. So how about you rehydrate? But it's not only water. We're not just a freshwater organism with pure distilled water. We're a saltwater organism. We run on minerals. So maybe the first thing we do when we wake up is drink some water with some minerals. Like, that's some basic operating manual 101 shit. We have that for our cars, but we don't have that for our bodies. And it's mind-blowing. Okay, and then how about something regarding the circadian rhythm? How about the thing that makes us feel awake and alert and alive in the day and sleepy at night? Well, now that we have all these artificial lights and we're not out in the sun, we actually have to pay attention to that shit, because that shit matters. So how about the first thing in the morning? You go out and you get a little light on your body. You move around, tell your body that it's awake, instead of just pounding your pounding your body with a bunch more coffee and a bunch more adrenaline and trying to make it through, maybe an Adderall, whatever we're trying to do to stay awake these days. Like, how about we use the natural forces that are around us? And that's really the ambition of this book. Yeah, there's lots of interesting little biohacks. Like, maybe if it's not sunny out there, you can get these light-emitting earbuds that wake up the photons inside your ears. It's called the human charger, and you put them right there in your earbuds, and it's the same as being outside in the sun. Costs about $200, sure. But most of us have some sun, so let's just try that first. And then, how about the input? How about the food that we eat? How about actually taking an intelligent, non-dogmatic look at what we're putting into our body? Instead of just having all of these conflicting, chaotic things, let's actually take a look at the science, let's take a look at what happens, and let's figure out what we want. It's pretty clear that when we're jacking blood sugar way up, and then it's plummeting way down from all the insulin, we're getting tired, aggravated, irritated. There's a study done, and a lot of you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience, they talked about it on that, and I wrote about it in the book as well. There's a study done on parolee judges in Israel. And right after lunch, when their blood sugar was rising, they were super lenient. They were letting everybody off. They're like, what'd you do? I don't care. I feel good. You're out of here. But when that insulin spike came and they went hypoglycemic and their blood sugar dropped, ain't nobody getting out of prison. Nobody. And so even the scales of justice were dependent on the blood sugar of the parolee judges. And that's the same for us all the time. We think we're in control of this shit, like, oh yeah, I got the control. My thoughts are my thoughts. I'm the fucking same no matter what. I'm in charge of this bitch. You're not in charge of this bitch. Blood sugar, you're fucking this, you're this guy. Blood sugar, this is one of the things. Blood sugar. All of these factors, your fatigue, your pain, your stress, everything contributes to you not being in control. You want another similar Wachuma vision? I'll give you another similar Wachuma vision. So I imagine what the self was like. And I imagine the self being in this little tiny control center. I imagine like the conscious self being this little tiny control center on top of the water. And then underneath the water was this giant bear that was walking like this. And the self on top was like, go this way. And the bear's like, I don't fucking hear you. And it was just walking along because there's so much going on in the body. There's so many unconscious, subconscious processes that we're not aware of, that we're not communicating with our body about, we're not listening to, that we're getting steered and driven and becoming and put on autopilot. So the goal, the hope, the aim of this book is to give you guys a process, and fuck me a process too. Like as I said, I'm the first one who's like this and still finds myself like that and still has to wake up from that constantly. So, but to have a process that you can surrender to, like something that you can just finally relax and say, all right, I don't have to think about this shit. I'm just going to do it. Just going to do it. And some of it's going to be a little bit challenging. Like when I ask you after your nice warm shower to turn that shower nozzle cold. Ooh, that's a tough one. 42% less respiratory tract infections. That's pretty good from people who expose themselves to the cold. You're going to get 300% increase in norepinephrine, which is going to drop your cortisol, which is your resting stress level. That's pretty good. You're going to lower inflammation. That's pretty good. You're going to build cold shock proteins, which help with longevity. You're going to wake up your mitochondria, which give you energy. All that's good. But there's still some of you who are going to read this book and look at that nozzle like, but that itself is part of the practice. Like part of the practice of living the best life you can possibly live is intentionally going in, making that move, and just turning it and starting to breathe and saying, do your worst, shower nozzle. I'm a fucking human being. I got this shit. And like, as you get used to that, then it's do your worst universally. Like you apply these small lessons, these small gains that you get, and then you can do even more ambitious things. You know, that thing that you're really scared of. Maybe it's public speaking. Maybe it's asking your boss for a raise. Maybe it's something that's really important. Maybe it's asking that girl out on a date. Maybe it's Whatever it is, that important shit. Maybe it's confronting your family. Maybe it's some other thing. How do you train that shit? Oh, like this. You train it in the little ways. You train it in the small ways. You train yourself to push past these limitations and these fears. So when you see something like that you know is beneficial for you, you know it. You can read all the science in the book. You know it. You got to train yourself to do it. You just have to. You owe it to yourself. Because that's building the important part of the personal power. Like, important part of personal power isn't going to be able to deadlift like some of the people you'll see at the Onnit gym, or swing a club like Master Shane Hines over here. It's going to be the mental willpower, the ability to do those challenging things even when you don't want to. And the greatest fucking champions that I know had mastered that shit. Like, Bodie Miller was the first person who had taken that to another fucking level. Because that dude not only liked to win gold medals, he also liked to party his ass off. And those are two things that are not necessarily helpful. So how did he overcompensate that? By the rawest, sheerest, purest form of mental willpower of any human being I've ever seen. I've told this story before, you might have heard it. I one time complained to him, I was like, Bodie, I got a fucking song stuck in my head. He goes, get it out. I go, what the fuck are you talking about, man? I just said it was stuck. And he's like, no, it's not, get it out. He's like, you think that I have any room to allow any thoughts that I don't want in my head to exist in my head? Whose head is it? Is it your head or is it not your head? I was like, that's a good point. And so he applied that not only to the thoughts in his head, but he would apply that to the hill sprints that he would run. I mean, watching that dude run a hill sprint, he would load up like 100, 150 pounds in his back, and he would run the hill, but he would run it so hard and so fast. When he was at the top, he was clawing and heaving like he was near death. And I was like, Jesus, man. But that was his way of pushing it, and that's what made him a world champion. And he applies that to his marriage. He applies that to everything that he does, so that because he's built that personal power. He applied it. He learned it in the sauna. He learned it hiking up and down these mountains. He trained that from an early age. He's not like a superhero that was just born that way. He just trained it over and over and over again. And that's the training that we all need to take, so we have that life that we can be super proud of, and that life that allows us to live fully expressed and enjoy this thing to the absolute fullest. And it's just a process. It's just a bunch of little things. That turning the shower nozzle, that's probably the hardest thing in the book. It's probably the hardest thing. And there's just a bunch of other little things. And then you do all that shit, and then you got a totally different life. But the process is the key. You don't worry about where you're going to be in a year or 2 years or 5 years or 100 years. You just worry about the process. You worry about today. You worry about what's happening right now, these choices that you're making in this very moment. And that's all you got. That's all we got. All we have is a succession of moments. Your life right now is as good as it's going to be. It's all as good as it's going to be. Like, look at me. Like, I've fucking created my dream company. I've launched a book. I've been dreaming about launching a book. Every part of this has been dreaming. There's nothing about right now that's like, oh, I fucking made it and I'm happy now. No, the whole process is awesome. You know, I look at a 17-year-old who I'm mentoring from my high school, and I'm like, oh, 17. So fuck it up. It's so fucked up. It's so awesome. You know, ooh, 24. Yeah, you're trying to figure it out. You don't know shit. Yeah, that part was awesome. But this part is awesome. Every part is awesome. Every part of the journey, wherever you are now, is awesome. If you have a long way to go, fucking great. Then you get to see rapid improvements. You get to see that rise, that curve. You get to inspire those people around you. You get those, oh shit, look at you. Like, everywhere in the process is awesome. And so know that, like, wherever you are, one of my favorite sayings was from the Sufi poet Hafiz. He says, wherever you are right now, the universe circled that place for you on a map. Maybe, maybe not, but might as well believe that. Because if you believe that, then you know you're in exactly the right spot. Right here in this room, exactly the right spot. And then knowing that, you just have to make the simple choices. Those simple little things that are going to take you to the next day, to the next minute, to the next hour. And enjoy it. It's so good. Life is so good. It's so fucking good. But we get it caught up in our own fears and our own delusions and our own limitations and other stories that other people have told us. But heaven is just right there. It's just right there. A little bit of a surrender away. Like people think, oh, you got to surrender to the hard stuff. You surrender to the enemy. You surrender to the pain. You surrender to the... Now, how about you just surrender to the fact that life is awesome? Surrender to love. Surrender to the fact that we got this. Surrender perhaps even to the fact that death itself is beautiful. And so our final destination that we're so terrified of might just be the most beautiful fucking thing we've ever experienced. I got some evidence that it is. Don't take my word for it, though. It ain't proof. So surrendering to the process, surrendering to who we are, and surrendering to the life that we're all capable. Because we're all capable of everything that we could ever want. We're all capable of being the A1 version of ourselves, that version of ourselves that nobody else can be. We're all capable of that shit. We actually already are that shit. Like if you imagine yourself like a year from now, let's do this. Might as well go do this whole visualization. So first, I'm gonna lead you through a little visualization. But first, let's start it with that 6 deep breaths that create that first state shift. So everybody's gonna take 6 deep breaths with me, and then you guys are gonna close your eyes and I'll lead you through a little visualization. All right, ready? Breathe in. Nice. All right, I want you guys to imagine yourself a year from now. And I want you to first imagine, the very first thing that you imagine is a fucking big-ass smile on your face. A smile that shines through your heart and a smile that shines through your eyes. It's that type of being where you just find yourself on the verge of laughing. When something good happens, you're on the verge of crying those tears of joy because it's so good. And you look down at your body, and your body looks as good as it's ever been. Feels good to move. You wake up in the morning with energy and purpose and clarity. The people around you are smiling too because you're like an anchor. You're like a rock of positivity, emanating light and love around you wherever you go. When you step into the room, everyone's a little happier for it. Then, I want you to also now fast forward even further. Fast forward all the way to the end of your life. And you're not on a deathbed, but you're by a fire somewhere. You got some grandkids or some family or whatever your situation is rolling around. Maybe you're smoking a pipe. Maybe you're smoking a joint. I don't know what kind of grandpa or grandmother you are. And you're looking back at your life, and you got that same motherfucking smile. You got that same smile because you know you gave it hell. When you could surf and play and fight, you did. When you could just sit and think and read and share and love, you did. You weren't bound by fear. When you had to turn that nozzle cold, you could fucking turn it. You had no doubts. You lived. You played this video game on planet Earth at this time, at this age. You fucking played the game. You went off the rails sometimes. You got lost in different worlds. You got lost in different maps. You made some mistakes, but you played. And you gave it hell. And you can smile after a life like that. You can smile because you weren't moving automatically. You were moving with purpose, with intention. You figured out the game. You figured out the rules, and you played. You didn't play it perfectly. No one plays it perfectly. But you fucking played the game. Those two people, those are you. Everybody can open their eyes. Those people are you now. It's not some mythical version. That's you now with the application of a few intentional choices, a few life changes. That's you. It's not somebody else. It's not a fantasy. You're already there. You just need to use all of the tools that are around you naturally to become that. And that's it. And we owe that to ourselves. We owe that to the people around us. So let's fucking do it. Let's just fucking do it. Everybody agree? How about everybody here, we all hold each other accountable and say that everybody here in this room, let's all look around at each other here real quick. And acknowledge that, hey, we're going to fuck up a lot. We're going to fuck up a lot. But we're going to give it a go. We're going to give it hell. We're going to give it a go. We're going to live. Hell yeah. And I'll be right there with you to my last breath. I'll be right there with you to my last breath. So let's do it. Hook a motherfucking hey, let's go. Thank you, everybody.